Hey, are you a business owner, entrepreneur, or professional? If so, we want you to apply to be a featured guest on our show. My name is Adam Torres, and I host the Mission Matters series of podcasts. I've recorded over 3,000 episodes, and we are just getting started. How do you know if you'd be a good guest to be on the show? Well, only one way to find out, and that's to apply, but I'm going to let you in on a little secret. We want guests that have a story to tell, guests with a brand, a product, or a service that can benefit my audience of listeners. If this sounds like you, go to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. I'd love to talk to you and get to know more about your story. Again, head on over to missionmatters.com and click on Be Our Guest to apply. All right, now let's get into the show. Hey, I'd like to welcome you to another episode of Mission Matters, your source for all things business. My name is Adam Torres. You can follow me on Instagram at AskAdamTorres. Keep up with my book releases, book tour schedule, signings, all that other good stuff. Always love to connect with you there. And as always, if you need to apply to become a co-author of one of my upcoming books, just head on over to the website, missionmatters.com, and click on Become an Author to apply. All right, so today I have Darren Chait on the line. He's co-founder and COO over at Hugo. Darren, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Adam. Thanks for having me.
All right, Darren. So excited to get into today's topic. So we'll talk about the future of meetings and workplace dynamics. And we are living in the future now, like I say, in terms of the way we're doing things nowadays and what you're doing, helping people become scalable and really just increasing, the flow of communication, I think is awesome. So maybe just to get us kicked off, tell us a little bit more about Hugo.
Yeah, absolutely. So Hugo is a software product. We provide one place for meetings, notes, and tasks for teams. So if you think about what happens today, when we go to meetings where we're spending most of our day, there's usually pretty poor preparation. And what happens during and after the meeting is anyone guess. Some people take notes, others don't. Some actions come out of it. All of those great insights end up all over the place in everyone's own tools. And tons slips through the cracks. So we're solving that by providing a central place where teams prepare for meetings collaboratively, where they take notes, where we capture all the action items, where we share those insights out with other people in the business who weren't in the room, and really provide a centralized best practice workflow for the way organizations meet.
So at the end of this, I'll give you the opportunity to leave, website or contact or however the audience can get in touch with you and your team. But I want to make sure that the right types of individuals do connect. So is there specific types of companies, whether size or industry that you operate in? Or, give us a little bit more of a feel for who goes appropriate for.
Yeah, absolutely. Today we're powering meetings of tens of thousands of companies. But in general, most businesses, unfortunately or fortunately, have a ton of meetings. Our sweet spot where we've grown, so far are in many cases B2B companies, so companies that are dealing with customers, but also have internal meetings as well. And they're typically using a bunch of SaaS tools as well, software as a service tools, because we know that in 2021, the explosion of software has meant that there's so many different places where data ends up. So teams that are using the likes of Slack and Google Suite or Office 365, a CRM, a project management tool, they're great teams for us to support because we can tie it all together and connect your meetings to all of those places where data ends up.
What are some unique ways that we can think about, or how our teams can really stay in sync? Because I think you have a really unique vantage point in overseeing Hugo. So what are some of those ways to stay in sync?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think in this pandemic or post-pandemic world, we've learned a ton over the last year and a bit. I think the world's been accelerated in the way collaboration occurs. And in particular, we always saw collaboration as a synchronous process, right? If we want to collaborate, we all need to either be in the same room or on the same call at the same time. Now, with everyone distributed, with pressures and balancing things at home and everything else that the pandemic has led to, it's no longer the case that that's feasible. I now need to put the kids to bed at 5 p.m. and I can't be available necessarily to be able to, work together on that. And a few trends like that have pushed us towards this world of asynchronous collaboration. Is it possible that we can collaborate and be an effective team in an asynchronous way? That, I think, is a really interesting trend that we're seeing growing, that's growing rapidly, and that certainly dictates what the future of work may look like. So some examples there, we obviously use Hugo in that way to do that, where I don't need to be in the meeting at the same time. I can capture these rich meeting notes with the insights, actions, tasks, takeaways, and get the same value from the meeting, even if I'm not there at the same time. But there's plenty of other approaches too. At Hugo, for the team, we use video a ton. There's some great products out there. We use Loom, Loom, for example, where I can go and send you a quick video whenever it is. It might be during the night, where I can say, hey, Adam, check this out. I was having a thought about that. Here's some feedback on this. And you can hear from me, and we can go backwards and forwards in this high bandwidth way, as if we're on a call together, but on our own schedule. And then when you wake up or when you have time, you then catch that and you might reply, and we can really collaborate in a very similar way to what we were doing in person, but asynchronously. And I think the move towards async collaboration really is indicative of what the next few years and beyond may look like for us as teams.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it just gets me excited because really, it just adds possibility to the mix in terms of where things can go, how fast companies can grow, what they can do, how they serve their company or how they serve their clients. I mean, there's just a lot of possibility there. So an interesting thing I'd like to get your insight into is really, building this, a 10X company culture. Speaking of scaling, speaking of growing, and the way that you're helping people connect, I mean, what do you think it takes to build that type of just company culture overall?
Yeah, so it's kind of funny. I've learned a lot about culture, and we wrote a book in late 2019, which we called 10X Culture, where we shared a lot of these stories that we'd heard from the companies and customers and partners we'd work with around culture. And I think the first thing about culture is that it's very hard to build culture. To go out to say, to go out and say, we're now going to build this company culture is near impossible, because culture really is just a function of the behaviors and values that are in your workplace. It reminds me of, I was at a conference about a year and a half ago now, where someone came over to me and they had a copy of 10X Culture in their hand, and they said, oh man, this is such great timing because I'm about to redo my company culture, as if they're about to paint their living room. And we all know that's not possible. That's not the way it works. If you want to change your company culture step by step, you need to create the behaviors and values that you're after. So that's one thing. Specifically though, when we think about culture, the way we've gone about creating a 10X culture and what we write about in the book are finding small practices that you can implement that in sum change the way your organization works. So for example, I just gave that one example around asynchronous collaboration before. But what we're really doing is we're setting a culture that we don't need to demand time on your schedule to be able to work together. You can work in a more flexible way because we have these practices that enable that. And all you need to do is find, 5, 6, 7 of those small practices, those small systems, procedures, processes, implement them in your business, and your culture rapidly shifts to become the sum of the values that those processes entail.
Wait a minute. So you're saying changing company culture is not as easy as just changing the color of paint in your living room? That was so funny. I had to cover the mic when you said that because I get it, and you're right, and it takes time and it's a diligent effort, and I want to get the name of that book one more time because I definitely want where my audience can pick that up. I know you said it once, but let's get it again. So what's the name of that book?
Sure, it's 10X Culture. And it's available on Amazon, or you can download an ebook at hugo.team/10x.
Fantastic. So I have to ask you, Darren, obviously company's growing, well-positioned. You're a thought leader in the space, writing books on the matter, right? What's next for Hugo?
So, good question. There's a lot next for us. Things are growing really well. We're obviously acquiring, thousands more companies every month that we're helping power meetings. For us, the roadmap and path ahead is really more and more of the meeting workflow. If you think about what happens before, during, and after the meeting every day, we want to be there. So Hugo is your meeting OS, your meeting operating system, where we can enable you and your team to have better, more efficient meetings.
That's awesome. Well, Darren, it's been great having you on the show today. Definitely learning more about your background, Hugo, the ways that you're helping your companies and your clients really thrive and grow. If somebody's listening to this and they want to learn more about Hugo and to connect with you and your team in the platform and figure out if it can be something that helps them in their business, what's the best way for them to do that?
Sure. So if you hit our website, hugo.team, so hugo.team, you can sign up free. We have Hugo's free for up to 10 users. So small teams can certainly check it out and use it for free and get the value of better, more efficient meetings for their team. And we're also on Twitter, so a good place to check us out. It's at Hugo Product on Twitter. We share a bunch of great content every day.
Fantastic. Well, Darren, really appreciate you coming on the show today and sharing more about what you're doing over at Hugo. And to the audience, as always, thank you for tuning in. Hope you got a lot of value out of this. Hope you learned a lot. If you did, don't forget, hit that subscribe button. We definitely want you to be a return listener and visitor. And Darren, thanks again for coming to the show. It has been a pleasure.
Likewise. Thanks for having me, Adam.